Okay, our next discussion is all about atomic theory. So, atomic theory is, of course, was formulated by John Dalton. So, John Dalton is one of the greatest chemists, the greatest uh, person who really have great contribution to the field of chemistry. So since as we all know, atoms, no, it came from the Greek word atomos, means they are indivisible. Always remember that when we say indivisible, it's not like they cannot be seen by our naked eye. Always remember that kasi yan yung I think nung bata pa yun ang naituro sa atin no, na they cannot be seen by our naked eye. That's the meaning of atomos. No, actually not that one. Atomos, it means indivisible. Therefore, it cannot be divided. So, ibig sabihin, yun na talaga siya. Hindi na siya pwedeng i-divide. And since atoms, no, atoms is everything you see, no, everything you touch, they're all made up of atoms. So, what is atomic theory? So, atomic theory, it became ito, no, from the concept of atoms that was introduced by Democritus during his time. So, he called these tiny particles as atomos in which they are both indivisible and indestructible. Kasi nga, they cannot be divided anymore. So, these are the basic elements that was first taught na elements daw sa elements sa ato ang surroundings, no? Just imagine sana ganito lang kadali ang mga elements. Pero now, we have 118 elements and still, meron pang mga debate na may additional pa na mga elements. Actually, as of now, 118 ang published na periodic table, but sa ibang it is actually 126 na. Pero, debate pa siya. So, hindi pa talaga siya na-prove na i-add siya sa periodic table. So, anyway, um, the basic elements are four elements. So we have water that was introduced by Thales, we have air by Anaximenes, we have fire by Heraclitus, and we have Empedocles, which is, ang kanya naman is earth. So, four basic elements, we have air, fire, water, and earth. And after which, during the ancient times, na meron tayong four na elements, meron din tayong na-introduce na isa, the fifth element, which is what we call quintessence, no? Si Aristotle naman yan. I'm not sure if it's on this in this PowerPoint presentation, but the fifth one is by Aristotle that says quintessence is those that are kanang mga celestial bodies, mga out of this world na mga matter daw. So, like, mga moon, sun, these are kanang, mo na siyang fifth element, which is what we call quintessence. So, anyway, going to the atomic theory of by John Dalton, it was in 1803 when the atomic theory was first developed and introduced, no? John Dalton introduced several elements with symbols. So, just imagine ito kanyang mga symbol dati, hindi pa yung hydrogen H, hindi pa ano. Actually, ito parang iba na ang name nito ngayon. Ito, ng mga names ng mga elements, no? So, um, these symbols were usually used to represent elements. And when those elements combine, they form a compound. So, ito na yung binary, ternary, and quinquennary. So, ito sila, this tells us that how many atoms of an element are there. So, usually, meron tayong binary. I mean, not atoms, but elements, no? So, usually, binary and ternary lang tayo dito kasi basic chemistry lang ito. So, ayan, hanggang sa parami ng parami. So, the postulates about the nature of matter on the John Dalton's theory is based on the summarized that is here. Actually, hindi talaga agad natin ito maintindihan kasi hindi pa kayo na-introduce for the atomic theory. So, the first postulate of the atomic theory is that it tells us that elements are composed of extremely small particles called atoms. That's number one postulate, or the number one assumption of the John Dalton's atomic theory. So, the atoms of element 1 are different with atoms of element 2. That will be postulate number 2. It tells us that all atoms of a given element are identical, having the same size. The atom of an element is different from other atom of element. So say for example, we have an atom of hydrogen. It cannot be an atom of oxygen, nitrogen, or whatever element, but only for hydrogen. Ganyan yung number 2 postulate ni John Dalton on his atomic theory. The next one is that compounds are composed basically of atoms of more than one element. So, it is a combination reaction siya or no, I'm sorry with that, no? So, not all naman na combination reaction talaga. Pero, these are basically composed of more than one elements. Ang isa ka compound. So, in any compound, the ratio of the numbers of atoms of any two of the elements present is either an integer or a simple fraction. Ano ito siya? Actually, the third postulate is connected with the three laws of chemical changes. So, we have the law of conservation of mass, we have the law of definite proportion, and we have the law of multiple proportion. So, this one is actually under the law of definite proportion. In law of definite proportion, it tells us, the ratio, uh, okay, the ratio that is being, so they mentioned here, it tells us actually the definite proportion of a compound. Say, for example, we have carbon dioxide. The ratio of the carbon dioxide, actually, hindi ko na lang papakita sa inyo, pero lingaw ni siya nga part. To determine the ratio of the, elements present there, we can actually say that, for carbon dioxide, hindi ko na ipapakita ang calculation, pero ang ratio niyan is 3:8. Ibig sabihin, there are 3 parts of carbon and 8 parts of oxygen. Lahat ng carbon dioxide, regardless of its total mass, no, i-compare niyo mga 10 grams of carbon dioxide and 50 grams of carbon dioxide, they still have the same ratio, which is 3:8. Yan ang muna ang ginapasabot sa third assumption or the third postulate in the John Dalton's atomic theory. Therefore, kahit ilang mass pa ng other elements or compounds ang nandun, they still have the same exact ratio from those kinds of compounds. Okay? For the fourth postulate, a chemical in reaction involves only the separation, combination, or the arrangement. It does not result in their creation or destruction. The fourth assumption is just so easy. No? What it only tells us is that during a chemical reaction, there is no new element that will be formed, and no elements will be destroyed during the reaction. It is only a rearrangement. So, let me show you. Let me show you an example. So, ayan. Ito yung ating lecture kanina. So, delete natin, no? Ayan. Okay. So, say for example, we have here a combination reaction. Say we have, ano ba? Para mas makita natin, say, photosynthesis, no? So, we have C6H12O6 or what we call glucose, plus, anong tawag nito? Carbon dioxide, plus water, results to wait, we have carbon dioxide plus water results to, and of course, trigger, saglit lang. Okay, so say for example, we have here the photosynthesis equation. Also, we have carbon dioxide plus water yields to C6H12O6, which is glucose plus oxygen. So, this one is a reaction, no? A photosynthesis reaction. So, as you can see, may nakikita ka bang carbon sa kabilang side? This side is by the way, the reactant side. And then this one is the product side. So, product. Okay. As you can see here, wala kang nakikitang carbon. I mean, may nakikita kang carbon dito sa reactant, meron din siya sa product. Oxygen, meron din. Hydrogen, meron din. Meron bang elements na wala dito sa reactant na dito sa product? Wala. So, ibig sabihin, walang, there is no new element that is formed during the chemical reaction. And, wala ding nawawalang element. Kasi lahat ng element na nandito sa reactant can also be found on the product side. So, ganun yung ibig sabihin ng number 4 na postulate. Okay, ayun. So, balik tayo. So, yan lang siya. So, there are four postulates on the Dalton's atomic theory. The first one is that all matters are made of an element, which is a tiny indivisible particles called atoms. The second one is all atoms are identical and have the same size, and there is no um, an atom of a certain element can never be an atom of another element. So, an atom of hydrogen is only an atom of hydrogen and not other any elements. The third one is, ito na papasok yung definite proportion wherein, regardless of the total mass of a certain compound, the ratio of the elements is all the same as long as they are the same compound. So, if we have carbon dioxide, all carbon dioxide 5 grams, 10 grams, 20 grams of carbon dioxide has the same ratio of 3:8. The fourth and the last assumption, it tells us that there is no loss nor gain of any elements during a chemical reaction, but only rearrangement. So, ma-rearrange lang sila during a chemical reaction. And this one is the atomic model that was given by John Dalton, which is it somehow looks like a billiard ball. So, kaya nga ang tawag nga is the billiard model of an atom. So, nagsimula ang model of an atom na ingun-anin lang siya. So, ayun. Alright, so I think that's all for John Dalton's atomic theory. If you have any questions, just please leave a comment below or you can message me on Facebook. Okay?